What is up, everyone? Welcome back to another episode of Panthers Nation Network. Pretty much, I guess we should say starting off a new season, right? We've had a big enough break to where this could be considered a new season, right?
Absolutely, new season, man. New feeling too. I mean, I think this is the most excited. I think we can actually say we feel excited. We feel like we got some substantial things moving in the right direction.
And it's not just us because, and I know like you've seen this like on Twitter, Instagram, even like Sports Center and stuff. The Panthers are actually getting talked about. Like, I watched on Pat McAfee for like 20 minutes yesterday, them breaking down training camp footage. I can't remember the last time Panthers training camp footage was broken down live on a national scale.
Oh, man, I know. It's crazy. I mean, like, we've even had Chad Johnson, Chad
Right,
Ochocinco.
that was crazy.
He's been a big-time supporter of the wide receiver group we got right now. So, I mean, I'm loving it. You're starting to see more national attention. It's been happening all summer. You think about,
right?
Like, Excel. Excel's been a media darling all summer.
He's been quieter now, thank goodness. He was, because there was a lot, and I don't know, it was like right after OTAs when he went to that Canes game, and I'm like, we still like there's OTAs in 2 more days. Like, is he coming back?
Between the Canes game, the Kentucky Derby over the summer.
Glorilla.
Yeah, look, I was gonna get there. I was gonna work our way to that one. But yeah, even that, man, we got a video vixen on the team and stuff now, bro. We a real superstar like.
The fact that we're catching positive strays. We've never caught in positive strays.
Dog,
unsolicited compliments.
Man, if you look at you go on Instagram, bro, you see a bunch of like the sports comedians. Typically when you talk about the Panthers, bro, it's typically it's pretty bad. This year, it's been quiet. You know what I'm saying? I think people are seeing okay, they actually making considerable moves.
Right.
T-Mac being on the roster, being one of those things that has had a lot of people buzzing. People are really high on him. I mean, I know since training camp being the way it is this year, the fans not being able to be there is being media only. I gotta ask, what have you seen from T-Mac so far?
So from T-Mac specifically, I know we can go back, and I wasn't the highest on him, not from a matter of like what I thought he could provide for the team, but I just thought at the time defense was more of the necessity, right? And I definitely wasn't as high about his abilities in terms of what he compared to the rest of the draft class from a perspective of who he's been playing in college and will his abilities translate to the NFL differently than, we've seen in the past or to the level that he's being talked about. Watching him in person is a different story. I'll give you that. Like, you can the thing that's so jarring is the height and the speed that he can play with that height. From, playing up against, just air, right? But then even going up against, one-on-one drills. I mean, he's been putting in work and doing it against JC and Mike Jackson. And that's not to say that the two of them haven't been performing, because there's been days like Mike Jackson's been locking everybody else down. And it's funny because we're at a point now where, like, I can't tell if one side doing better than the other is a product of both of them being good or one of them faltering on that specific day or needing, more practice. I can't tell what it is.
Right. I mean, I'm hoping that everybody's improved and this is just iron sharpening iron. And right now, I mean, Mike Jack's been one. I think I've seen people be a little worried about Mike Jack because it seems like every time we see a tweet, every time we see a post, is Mike Jack on the other end of it. But like you said, you've seen him. You've been able to see him up close. You've been able to see the competition going a lot more back and forth than what maybe what the media side shows us.
Right. So like that the play that went viral this through the second week of training camp, Nalo like flipping around behind, like arched out, like bending backwards to catch the pass. Only reason he gets that because everyone's like, oh, T-Mac can't get separation. Well, he can get separation, but on that specific play, he could not. Mike Jack was on him, clamping him. So the fact that he was able to make that, and the thing that isn't talked about in that is Bryce being able to put the ball there. We don't talk about it, but we've known in the past, even when Bryce is playing to his peak performance, he can overshoot these receivers.
The D-ball hasn't been there so far through the first 2 years.
It hasn't. And so I hope that, what we were hoping from XL and Bryce, that same kind of when XL was on, the Gamecocks, Spencer Rattler could pretty much just close his eyes and throw it down the field and XL was going to be there to catch it. And so I think XL hopefully should be able to bring that, but if not, T-Mac will absolutely be able to do that. And they're running him, they've ran him inside, they've ran him outside. They're switching up, and they've done that for every wide receiver. They've run David Moore inside. They've run, like Thomas Incoom, like the 5-string tight end outside. They're not really showing us like formations like you think. They're showing us, I think, an idea of what they want. But like watching him in person, watching him against our guys, I think he has that ability to be explosive and to be explosive in a consistent manner, right? Like I think his hands speak for themselves and his like I remember the one thing they talked about like and it's funny cuz I remember at the time we said, all right, Dan, if you're talking about like game speed, then he must not be that fast. Like if you're fast, you're fast. You don't have to qualify it with game speed. But I'll tell you what, when he's running those routes, he is fast. And they talked about his arm, his ability to reach, like his
The
reach.
wingspan, yeah.
His catch radius is ridiculous. I've seen Bryce throw a couple errant or Andy throw a couple errant, and he just hauls them in.
And look, I will say that's been the most exciting thing about watching T Mac so far throughout this process is that obviously we thought defense should have been first in the draft, but I mean I guess the biggest thing is that he does seem like he's that game changer at that position, and he was going through the draft process. The people were pretty consistent that he was the only receiver that was of that ilk. So it does feel great now in retrospect to have him on our side.
Yeah, like it's like we said with Dan, we talked about all of this, but if this rookie class does pay off, because you put a lot of not weight on this rookie class, but this was his first year of like not drafting out of like immediate necessity. I feel like last year he had to draft XL. We needed a wide receiver. There was no two ways about it.
Yeah.
Again, not expecting one maybe that early, but you needed one. You could have because let's be real. I mean, Chuba had his he had not hit his stride. This last year was his stride, and so running back was on the in the view, but then of course defense, right? And so he was filling in Charles Smith Wade, Trevin Wallace, Crumity, guys like that he needed to fill out this roster. And this year it felt like okay, this could be more of a developmental thing, thinking in the future because all of these guys are young,
Yeah,
very young, and so that's where like. Or some of them are old. Like, some of them can be a bit older. Like, Trevin Wallace is particularly young from what he is now, like to the point where the guys that are coming in, Bam Martin Scott, a few years older than Trevin Wallace, right? Like, but to think about like how much if this rookie class does pay off and pays off fast, and you are able to connect on, Nalo, and then if XL hits his stride, boom, you've gotten your two twin wide receivers. In the span of 2 years, then if both Princely and Scorton can provide a starting presence, which it seems like every day that's becoming more and more the case, then you've done a really good thing here. The problem is that if they don't succeed, if there's injuries, like if they're forced into positions where they have no help on either side, that's where we're going to get into the weeds of like, all right, we're back in the cycle of needing to shop for necessity again.
And I guess we can stay on this rookie class. Princely, Nick Scorton. I know Princely's made the rounds in terms of social media wise. Everybody's falling in love with the attitude, falling in love with that demeanor. I know it feels good to have. It feels like a real, one of those guys back in the room that's gonna pop. It's gonna pop. Gonna pop style on the field, but also gonna back it up. You know what I'm saying with excellent play. I know he had some early flashes early on. With getting the Bryce in the first couple of days of camp. How has he looked?
Look at he has looked really explosive coming off the edge. Like I think that they've found what that they cut Amari Barno, who I was surprised was still on the team. DJ Johnson's still dealing with injuries, and they're being still conservative with DJ Wanham because they want to make sure that he can get to that point where he needs to, right? But with Princely, he's got that explosiveness off the edge, and like we talked about, it might be that kind of thing where you're going to have to block somebody. And Princely, and we talked about it, off camera, talking about like Princely, I think could have like a productivity level of like F.A. Obata's like peak year, that 2019, a couple sacks, a couple fumble recoveries, that errant pick. I think depending upon how much they use him, I think if they use him as much as we think they're going to, from like where Pat Jones is going to be in front of him, or like DJ Wanham is going to be fully healthy, then I don't think he sees as much playing time because I think he has the ability to where he's not needed in that position right now. But I think he can have that kind of level because he's shown those flashy plays that Bryce, he got to him quick. And we talked to him. He was actually trying to like not take him down. He didn't mean to, but that's how much momentum he was coming in with. And that's what has been different about the defense this year. They are flying around. Like the offense has definitely not been ginger, but like, from an offensive perspective, you're either going to run through like hands trying to hit you or like you're like trying to outrun people. Scorton is popping pads. Like Princely's popping pads. Trevin Wallace absolutely
Yeah.
smacked Chuba. That happened the second day of week 1, and it would have been a hit on a defenseless receiver if we were in real game mode,
Right.
but he whopped him.
Well, I guess this leads to this. Is there been a significant change in the defense that you've seen, like just a bit from last year to this year? Is there anything that you see that's different? Any positive signs, or things that's kind of still slow, just kind of wait and see?
No, I think there's been a sense of urgency, really, a lot of urgency, and I think the defense understands the weight that is upon them, and you can see it kind of in the drills they run, and even in the way they fly around in the team, settings. I think the offense has been proven. I'm not saying that the offense is taking any reps off, right? But their training camp is a lot more fluid for them, right? Like you're just catching passes, you're, running around, like you're not trying to get hit, same like that. When the pads came on for that first day, it was metal to metal, and the defense was going 100% because I think they understand they need to. Derek Brown was off to the side after the first day of pads. First day of pads, he was out there, making an impact already. Bobby Brown just got reactivated. He wasn't out for long, so that was good. And then, especially the defensive backs. The defensive backs and the safeties have been, taking advantage of every single rep to the point where it's like, it's like Rudy. Like, all right, you're making us all look bad because you're flying around that much. Like Damani Richardson was Camp Darwin last year. That has not changed. He's been looking more and more like he has that ability to be a true free safety. Which
That's huge. That's huge. I mean, our UDFAs compared to I think other teams, the guys that we grab out of those UDFA groups, they actually need to be something. Like
100%.
We need you to contribute, whether it be special teams, whether you can carve out a role on the defense. Like if you can provide something, we actually need it right now.
For right now, I mean the UDFAs same like with Jalen Coker. Last year, I mean we saw it with Damani Richardson as well, and I'm hoping, and we haven't gotten to see how he's been able to gel in because of so many things changing. They brought Wagner, I think his name, and the new linebacker in. But I hope from a UDFA perspective, Bam Martin-Scott does provide that. He's got the ability to be a true inside linebacker. And with the exit of Josie Jewell, it's like Christian Roseboom, I think, can provide pretty much the exact same archetype that Josie Jewell did. His same experience with the system, same, similar amount of years in the league, similar build-up, similar attributes. But you need someone like, because Trevin is very undersized still as a linebacker, and we've seen, he got put into the fire last year to the point of, does he need to be in that? So if they can roll out those linebackers and maybe even sign another one, but I think from a UDFA perspective, if I had to pick one that I'm hoping for, it's because, it's going to be Bam Martin-Scott. Because, I'd love to, but, Kobe Hudson, you're not going to, there's going to be 7 wide receivers probably.
It's going to be tough for those young guys to make the cut, man.
I don't see that happening. Kieran Lynch-Adams, running back, with having still Raheem Blackshear, Rico, Trevor Etienne, I don't see there being a way that you're not any more than a practice squad player. But even guys like Ryan Fitzgerald, the kicker, he might swing around and get that starting spot.
Who's competing for the kicking job?
Matthew Wright. If you remember, he was on the Panthers very briefly a few years back in the, Joey Sly, those years. So they've been going back and they've given him equal kicking time. So we'll see who actually takes that, that role. But yeah, from a defensive perspective, I think there's a real big fire that's been lit under their asses this year to, either put up or shut up. And like I said, all this will be very interesting to see when the Browns come to town. Fortunately, like I said, the Browns not the best litmus for what makes, good competition.
But I want to see you attack the moment.
Absolutely.
I think that's all we can ask for right now. Just attack that moment. Take advantage of it. If they aren't a great litmus test, hey, show it.
Yeah.
If you could, you know what I'm saying. So, what about the kid from Fresno State? I don't want to mispronounce his name. The UDFA from Fresno State.
Oh, Tuasivi?
Yeah.
Tuasivi Namora. So I think, it was funny because, A, he's got super long hair. He looks like Troy Polamalu. Tuasivi Namora, like I said, with the linebacker room is really interesting. You have Claudian Charles, who had some time there last year. Christian Roseboom. Guys like Boogie Basham.
Great name.
Right? Amazing name. It's up there with, if you remember from a few years back, I wanted Charleston Rambo to make the roster because I wanted to be able to say that, Charleston Rambo was on the team. That's great. And And to be honest, they're running the linebacker room so much by committee. Like when at the beginning, before they bring in Roseboom, you knew about, even when they brought in Roseboom, you had Roseboom, you had Josie Jewell, you kind of knew, okay, they're playing the same position, but like you could switch them, maybe play them in tandem. Like when they were running 11-on-11s today, or 7-on-7s today, they were just running 2 linebackers. And they had, they're 5 defensive backs, which isn't necessarily unheard of. But even for 11-on-11s, they were having, nickel and dime sets they were running for most of the time. They don't really have a specific set, like, number one linebacker group. I'd say, off the top of my head, Roseboom, Wallace, and then it would be, Wanham and I imagine Scorton.
Right.
Because they've got Wanham and Jones listed on the same side. Then Scorton and DJ Johnson. And then, Trevin, Bam, Claudin, and Christian Roseboom all in the middle. But they rotate them in and out so much. Like, same with the wide receiver room. Those been the two. Like, every other group, you can pretty much understand who the starters are going to be. Like, right now, they're still running with Trevon Moehrig and Nick Scott. I don't see that staying that way for long.
Right.
And then, of course, Mike Jack and JC. Right. They're running. And it's funny because Mike Jack and JC, they pretty much practice the majority of the time at the beginning, especially away from the rest of the cornerbacks and defensive backs. Because it's like they don't need to run through any of the drills like JC didn't practice the day of recording, June 29th, and Mike both got vet days.
Which at this point, honestly, with JC, I think all we care about is make it to the season, get through the season.
Right.
Anything prior to that, handle it how you handle it.
Like Adam Thielen had a vet day. Derek Brown was out there but off to the side. They're being very conservative with their stars and with the guys that they know they don't need to see anything from, right? Like Taylor Moton is good for another couple of vet days. He'll probably won't practice again until, the joint practice, right? Yeah. And with the Heat, with their injuries, like, because to be honest, the health is the biggest thing for this team this year. Like, critical. Not to say that they lack depth, but they can't really. The margin for error is going to be really thin.
Yeah, I mean, and we know how it goes. You get to a season, if you're missing a couple starters that you were banking on coming into the season, it changes a lot.
Absolutely,
it changes a lot. It thrusts rookies into certain spots where they probably wouldn't have had to be. I mean, think about Trevin Wallace. You think about how much he had to play last year. I don't know if we ever intended on him playing that much.
No.
You know what I'm saying? So it's just one of those things where I'm okay with how they're handling it right now. Just get these guys to week 1. Now, obviously when we get to the preseason this year, I do want to see more of Bryce.
Yeah,
I got to see those guys play because last year, how bad last year started out, I can't even. We can't fight with that anymore.
No, that would be the worst thing in the world.
Jimmy Horn. I know everybody's been. I know you've been saying things have been kind of moving by committee. Guys have been in and out. Is this just a thing where he's just been in because of how they operate practice, or do we think there's something to it?
So it's funny, it's hard not to read into these things, right? Especially from former players, but people you play at the collegiate level, and I play at the high school level, and with individual drills, the order with which they run those drills is fairly indicative of what the starting, what the lineup is going to look like, what the roster is going to look like. Your starters, your vets are going first. Even if they're rookies and they're going to start, they're going early. But Jimmy, there's it'll be, and whether it's whether they do splits, at least in the last week, because the first week it was the Jimmy Horn show. OTA's minicamp was the Jimmy Horn show, and in training camp the first week it was similar to that. He was definitely putting on a show. This week's been different. TJ Luther will go before him, or Kobe Hudson will go before him, or Bryce Tremaine will go before him in certain drills. Mm-hmm. So, and then from he'll do all these things. Also, he's very crafty and speedy in his individual drills. I haven't necessarily seen that, especially on Pad's day, didn't necessarily see it translate. I'm not saying he's gonna not make the roster. Don't get me wrong.
Right,
he's not. There's no way he gets cut, and he's definitely been running special teams a lot. But I'm starting to wonder if they're tracking more to keeping him as a special teams guy. Even with Steve Smith was majority special teams his first year.
Which I think even when he got drafted, I think that was the first thing that me and you discussed was that like 6th round, you're gonna be a special teamer. Like you're gonna play special teams. I'm not looking for a 6th rounder to have this immediate impact in the
No,
receiver
he
room.
shouldn't
Like
either.
you shouldn't. I'm not putting that expectation on him. I would like to see, especially with his ability that he flashed in college, some of the things that we've seen, in minicamp and OTAs. You would like to see that on the field. But like you said, I mean, I think there's still a development period with a guy like that. And if we're not seeing it in pads pop, show up just yet, then it may be a while before we get to see that. That may be some, like I said, special teams where I would expect to see him have his biggest moments.
Yeah, I think, the best thing you can do with him, especially this early from the room that we've got, right? Like, you can send him and Coker on the fly on the outsides, and then, if you want to, like, run XL in the middle like a glorified tight end, then you can if you'd like to do that as well. Or put, T-Mac out there on one end, with Jimmy coming over the middle. I think, though, your best bet for probably, especially I think the health of the offensive line will facilitate this a lot. Like if they stay healthy and they can do what they need to, I would love to see Jimmy on more of your bubble screens, your end arounds, like from like not a like Debo Samuel-esque like kind of route tree, but like being a bit more crafty with him because his ability is his ability is his open space ability.
But you think about how like a Detroit used Jamison Williams his first couple years.
Right.
Now he's just now getting into that stage of being the receiver.
Right.
But for the first couple years, it was just, hey, just be the weapon.
Yeah, and I think he's definitely I hesitate to say the fastest, but I'd say the fastest with the ball on the field right now from a acceleration standpoint, change of direction standpoint. Like it doesn't necessarily, and it shows in his route running ability. But I think that when you've got Coker, we got like it depends on how they want to run these packages, right? That's right. Like and luckily for us, we've got Canales, a wide receiver, former wide receivers coach, former wide receiver, and who will be. I imagine we haven't really talked about it or heard it. I'm assuming he's going to be play calling again. They haven't really said anything to otherwise, that Idzik would take over any of the play calling ability. It seems more and more likely that it'll be Canales calling the plays. And so because of that, like it'll be interesting to see what kind of packages he puts together for all these guys. He says he said today it's like a basketball team.
Yeah.
He's got all these different guys, different skill sets, different body types in the wide receiver room specifically that he's really excited to kind of, play with.
Yeah. And see, the receiver room's such a it's so vast. Like you said, you got all these different body types, all these guys that do different things that we can literally spend a whole episode just talking about.
You could.
about those guys. So I gotta ask Hunter Renfrow. That's been the one where I've seen that his clips have made the rounds. Nationally, it's garnering attention. I'm seeing Shannon Sharp talk about it. Pat McAfee. Everybody's geeked up to see like what is this? Like is this legit? You know what I'm saying? So I know for us, we were a little hesitant because we knew his situation coming. Trying to make his comeback and how tough that can be. So we weren't putting any large expectations on it. What have you seen thus far?
Yeah, right. That same thing. A really weird situation, a rare condition. And it was, he said, like, it was after, and he talked about it. He said, after the Raiders made the playoffs, it was the year he made the Pro Bowl. And he, like, he was getting ready for the Pro Bowl. And, like, he just didn't want to practice. He was exhausted. He said he was incredibly fatigued, like, did not feel good. And that was when he called and found, and they did all the tests, ran and found that he had what he had. And so, like, it took him, a while to figure it out. And he had every intention on coming back. It was Dabo that said, like, you shouldn't retire. Like, you've got too much, like, still in the tank. And it's interesting to wonder if this never happens. Is this what caused his production decrease? Because they said when they signed him, or when they were working on trying to figure out an extension, and he got that extra year the next year after the Pro Bowl, they were spent that whole year trying to figure out what was going on with him and how to use him and if they could keep him or not. And obviously, inevitably, they couldn't. But so it makes you wonder how much more production could he have put out had this not happened. All that to say, if he still has the condition, if it's still something that he's afflicted with, you couldn't tell right now. He's firing on all cylinders, and I was skeptical. We knew that he had this route running ability, right? But what he said, it's funny. He's like, I've been thinking all these things in my head the last year, like how I can do this better, how I can make this more creative. And like Bryce said, like he's the most creative wide receiver he's played with right now,
Yeah.
and like almost to a fault. And he can switch that creativity on a dime, like mid route, about what he's going to do, how he can get around you. So if he continues and can stay healthy and can stay 100%, like whether it's that kind of like I think he can create that same kind of security that Adam Thielen and Bryce had the first 2 years with, a different like we all we've talked about Adam Thielen, like he's a better route runner than we thought he was and at
Yeah.
his age, but like I think Hunter's a better route runner.
I think he's got a little bit more wiggle to him too. I think he's a little
Absolutely.
bit more explosiveness. A guy that, hey, as we continue to move, like I mean, just be honest. I mean, Adam's years are waning here in
Yeah,
Carolina, and
100%.
that's just the reality of it. If there is if there is a after Adam plan, I think you would love it to be Hunter Renfro.
It would be an absolute steal, right? Again, another one of these things where if like Dan has taken a lot of he's made a lot of gambles, right? And if they pay off, Dan's gonna look like a genius. Like if you bring Hunter Renfro out of retirement and he turns into like like a dare I say like a Cooper Cup esque kind of player, like he's not gonna get to that high. Obviously, I don't think it's just with the age,
But
but
just hey, even that pre Super Bowl year Cooper Cup that was hovering around like
right,
800 and 900 yards. I mean, we talked about it pre-show. I said, hey, if Hunter Renfro gives me 400 yards,
I mean that's
400 yards, 3 touchdowns, dog, I'm hoping this is of the mindset that T Mac and
right,
Excel
right.
are taking those are going to be those bona fide 1 and 2 guys. So I mean, if Renfro's giving you that in that receiver room, it's a big year for Bryce more than likely. That means Bryce probably threw for maybe 25 to
Right,
30
yeah.
touchdowns in that range, right? So I mean, a lot of positives could come from Hunter Renfro being able to stick on this roster.
Yeah, it would definitely, and I think that's gonna they're gonna come down to it. I think it's gonna be 7 receivers on the roster. The way they're running it, I just don't see how they don't. That's very hard to keep around, right? With, still having also at the time right now, ETN, Blackshear, Chuba, and Rico Dowdle. You already have 4 running backs on the roster. Like you talk about right now that with Tommy Tremble, on PUP, you still have JT, Mitch Evans, and I think 2 other guys at tight end right now. Like you've got a lot of, especially on the offensive side of the ball, it's going to be like weighted a little bit more. So it'll be interesting to see if anybody does get cut right now. Right now, I'm looking at David Moore. He was the most consistent health-wise last year. He's got the familiarity with Dave Canales, but I don't know what he does better than any of the other receivers that are on the team right now. Again, outside of the fact that he has stayed majority healthy for the time frame that he's been on the team.
That's just, I mean, that's real. That's real. I mean, like you said, I mean, yeah, what does he do? I mean, like I said, availability is the best ability.
That it is.
And so that's what's kept him here. But like you said, I don't, aside from his relationship with Dave Canales, I could not see a situation where he's making it over the current crop of guys. Obviously the only guys he would really be I think he's truly competing with are Hunter Renfro, Horn, like the guys on the back half of that receiver.
Yeah, Coker maybe, yeah.
Like he's competing with those guys. I think the first 3-4 guys these are locks.
Yeah, they're absolute locks. Like when you have that, it makes it a lot harder. But like that's where I will trust Dan to go, okay, if you think this is gonna have a bigger and I'm thinking they're also thinking long term impact too, right? Like what they're not thank God saying like, we're ready to take the division, right? We're ready to make a waves in the wild card and on, right? Their main focus is literally just winning and getting better at the moment and then facilitating that to build down the line. So I think they're being very like forward thinking in their thought process. So that's what I would imagine would then cause you to go, okay, David Moore, how many years do you realistically have anyway? Right now, the output that you're giving me is not an Adam Thielen level. And even him, we're like, all right, how many years are you giving us anyway? Like, and you don't need, like, Adam's got your veteran presence, right? Like, that was what David Moore had brought, was that veteran presence. But, Adam's got that. Like, he doesn't need to really be there for that. If that's all that he's there for, then that can be sacrificed, I think.
And, look, health is going to be key. We don't know how things work out. I think David Moore's always going to have Canales has a special place in his heart for David Moore, so he's always going to be around in some capacity. So we'll just have to kind of see how things work out with that. To hit on the trenches a little bit. Have we seen on the defensive side? We spent a lot of money there. I don't know how have we seen many of the guys that we paid this offseason, like Wharton. I know I know Bobby Brown just, as you say, that Bobby Brown just got reactivated. Cam Jackson, the rookie out of Florida. Like, have we seen those guys? How have they looked so far since the pads have come on?
Yeah, so they went very run heavy too. Like they threw it a little bit, but they went very run heavy. And I got to tell you, they were getting plugged up. Like Chuba was only broke like one or two off. ETN couldn't get past the line of scrimmage. Like Rico had I think one maybe. They were definitely plugging up that line of scrimmage. Having Derek Brown, like the best part about it is like having Bobby Brown. Like he wasn't there for those pads days, but even just like throwing in, if it has to be Turk moving inside or A'Shawn Robinson moving inside or Derek moving inside, Bobby Brown is definitely that true nose tackle like that they've been looking for. And, I've always had my issues with this 3-4, like, running. You can't look at me and tell me that Derek Brown, especially for, like, us, I don't want to say, like, us, like, old school defensive, like, but, like.
We are. We grew up with a 4-3. We're old school.
Right? Like, you can't look at me and tell me that Derek Brown's a defensive end. I'm not going to believe that. Same with A'Shawn Robinson. I'm like, if you, and they're not overweight by any means, but if you have a gut.
Brother,
you're a nose tackle. You're a defensive tackle. You don't got to be a nose, but you're a defensive tackle, right? We grew like Mario Addison. Like even Charles Johnson was a little bit on the thicker side, but he had that speed, right?
He was a heavier guy for sure.
But Mario Addison, Julius Peppers. I mean, it's hard to have the defensive end.
Ends. I don't care what. Like that's what I'm saying. Like we grew up with real deal defensive ends, so I don't believe in all of this.
Right.
All this mumbo jumbo about Derek Brown.
It's hard, right? And so and Turk's the same way. But I think Turk and Bobby Brown in the aggregate can be really, really impactful, right? Like, I think we've seen that A'Shawn has been able to, they tried to bring in Deshaun Robinson, who was the other? They had another defensive tackle a couple years back that they tried to get in that wasn't even working.
Total.
He's still there, but not from a starter perspective.
I'm sorry. Hey, my fault, y'all. I ain't know because I ain't, bro. And that's news to me.
Oh, rough. That's rough. He is still there, maybe from a hometown discount perspective.
Hey, for sure, bro. We need that.
But yes, he is still like Nick Thurman was there and gone. Like they had like LeBron Ray is still there. Who was the Baylor dude that we tried to make Bravion Roy. Yeah, like they tried to get some of those guys through, but I think A'Shawn, A'Shawn was the viral for remember when he was sitting next to Derek Brown on the or Derek Henry on the media day, making Derek Henry look small.
Dog, and it is and shout out to Unnecessary Bluntness Dunk. He said, bro, A'Shawn Robinson has looked 38 since he was 18.
He has. He absolutely has. And I talked to A'Shawn the other day, and he's got he said he's like. I was like, what's the outlook for the defense this year? He's like, we're going to be killers. Like, we're going to come into your house and we're going to kill you. And I was like, okay, whoa, wait, whoa.
Yeah.
Whoa, but I know what you mean, but like, whoa.
Hey,
but
love the enthusiasm.
But, right, like, and that's, like, he is, and he's like that was like completely flat toned, no, like, sarcasm or jokes. Like, and I was like, yeah, I believe you're going to, like.
And he's bald. So I really believe you. Hey, bro, bald with a beard.
Bald with a beard is
bald with a beard since 17.
Is crazy.
I'm guessing. I don't even know when he went bald, but I'm gonna guess 17.
If he was shaving,
he was bald at Bama.
If he was shaving, then it wasn't growing back. Like he probably did that one shave, and they say like you shouldn't have done that because then it's not gonna grow back.
That's so gangster, bro. You know how cold you got to be like, nah, I'm going bald before 20.
Right before I get out of college, right?
Baldy.
That's crazy, and he is ginormous.
Yeah.
He's huge, and all of them are. Cam Jackson is ginormous. Derek Brown, to the point where Derek Brown, when I talked to him, he was like, "Oh yeah, that's a big ass dude." If Derek Brown is calling you a big ass dude,
yeah,
you're huge.
Hey, bro, this gives me obviously for us, we've grown up watching great defenses in Carolina. This does give me remnants of Chris Jenkins, Princeton Buckner.
Yep.
Yeah, like you know what I'm saying.
Yeah,
like
no, absolutely, Mike Rucker. Like you've got. You have the ability, and the problem is gonna become, like, it's where we talked about, like, I don't think you're gonna have to worry as much about like having to rush your linebackers, right? I think you can dip them back in coverage because hopefully what this should facilitate is getting that pass rush,
Right.
getting that run stop that we've been lacking for so many years. If they can plug up the middle like that and stay healthy, God willing, that front four can be really fluid. Like I have more trust in the front four or front three, I guess rather.
Right.
And then with how like to the point where like I do trust, Mike Jack and JC to stay healthy. Outside of that, Shamar Bartholomew has had a really good training camp.
That's great because
He's
that
had a
name is he's got
awful.
a hell of a name.
Yeah, it's there. Shamar Bartholomew, like
Tough.
it's a lot of E's and R's and M's. And,
I gotta attack you. I'm not gonna lie.
Right?
If I see Bartholomew on the field, brother. Hey.
I think he wears like 39 or
Yeah,
29.
give my dog a
It's
better
not
number,
a good
bro.
number to wear.
Gotta give my dog
Even
a better number.
Damani wears 39.
I thought the money's at 36.
Oh no, Damani's 36. That's right. Neither are good numbers. I can't have Sean Alexander out there like that in all the way back there. That's exactly what I think of, But Shamani's had a great camp so far, so that's been comforting to see. They brought in Mello Dotson. They signed him off of UDAs from Kansas, who I know in a lot of mock drafts we were reading, Mello was the guy we were looking at, maybe as a 6th, 7th rounder, if you were going to draft a cornerback.
Yeah.
So if he can make an impact, great, right? They've got their own Cooper DeJean. I don't remember his name, but they've got two of them. One's at safety and one's at cornerback. And then, to see and Charles Smith-Wade has made a consistent, moving forward. But to say, like, I'm obviously incredibly concerned about the linebackers. Like we said, there's even before Joe, like, it's just like a consistent lack of decisions or foresight to, obviously, like, you felt you couldn't give that money to Shaq.
Yeah.
You had to go other ways with it. And maybe even if you did give him that money, it's 2 years from his last full season. Is he going to be anything on the field? Then the Josie Jewell, stuff happens, which I guess you couldn't have foreseen, but they said it was from persisting concussion symptoms, which means they were just hoping he was going to feel better.
Right. And if there's anything, now we would not be us if we didn't give the other side. Like I know we want to be bullish in this training camp. We want to have hope, but we got to be honest. Like, hey, like that's why we were so, pounding the table for defense.
100%.
That's why we were doing it. So I mean,
especially when you see the Falcons get Jalen Walker and they get James Pierce.
Yeah.
And like get a linebacker that early. That's where the linebacker was not your key piece. Like you could go edge rusher or linebacker, but we were hoping for both.
Right.
And so you get two guys that are really truly edge rushers.
Yes, these are edge guys
that you're trying to have stand up and go in your 3-4, like and where like any other system you're running them as defensive ends.
Right.
If you're in a true 4-3, you're running them as defensive ends. You'll have Derek Brown, Ashawn Robinson, or Bobby Brown in the middle, and then Princely or Scorton out to the side, or like Wanham would still have been an outside linebacker.
This is my thing, and this is why when we said what we said about Derek Brown being labeled a defensive end, I'm like, hey dog, I look at it like basketball now. Titles be damned.
Right. Yeah.
Guys fit where they fit. So when you tell me you drafted a linebacker,
right,
brother, please,
but
you didn't draft a stand-up Thomas Davis or Keith.
No.
You drafted an edge rusher.
But this is what's severely hurt our run defense and our pass rush ability is that, like, while Derek Brown has that power, you're playing in a league now where, like, even Dave Canal said it himself. We want it to be, I think it was like 5 seconds, a 3 to 5 second window from snap to throw for Bryce. Mm-hmm. It might take Derek Brown more than 3 seconds to get back to the quarterback, not to push, through in the middle,
right,
but if he's trying to go around a tackle, like that's a different story than sending a guy like Scorton off the edge to get around a tackle. So what I hope is that the defensive backs can play more securely, and what's it really is, and if you can get like enough out of your middle inside linebackers, then you can truly use Scorton and Princely or Scorton and DJ Wanham to rush, right, and create that, because that's what it's really going to come down to is those two outside guys. Yeah. I mean, the whole defense really is hinging on this linebacker room, because if you can't get the coverage that you need through over the middle, then you can't send anybody on a blitz. If you can't send anybody to blitz and you either don't have the health on the defensive line to get a rush, or the guys that you brought in aren't able to do what you thought they were going to do, then you're again just now asking for J.C. Horn and Mike Jack to cover for more than 8-9 seconds.
And we wanted to get out of the hope and pray defense,
right?
Like we wanted guys that can handle their responsibilities, do their job, everybody work in concert together to make a great unit. So I mean, yeah, the not handling the linebacker situation is gonna be something we're gonna be monitoring all year, because you knew it was something that you should have taken, you should have tried to address.
Especially, like, I understood, like, you say, okay, well, there's free agency, but it's not like the free agency room is specifically for inside linebackers was all that appetizing. Like, you were basically looking at, I mean, like, you didn't think that the Bengals were going to cut, what's his face? He was a captain from the Carolina area. I want to say Gino, but that's not right.
I'm thinking the name.
Who did they
Jermaine
cut?
Pratt.
Jermaine Pratt, thank you.
Yeah.
You had no idea that they were going to cut Jermaine Pratt. There's a starter caliber linebacker, but, like, that would have been your only ability to, like, find someone that could make it a immediate impact.
Right.
But it's just such a, like, for Dan Morgan.
And that's the real question. Like, dog, you are a linebacker. This was how you made your living. How has it not been addressed?
How can you sleep at night, like, knowing the linebackers that have graced this team, like in a short time period, truly like top 5 group of linebackers all time.
It's pretty damn elite.
Like,
it's pretty elite.
And this is what you're trudging out onto the field. Like,
right.
It's mind-boggling to me that that's what you're okay with doing. And if, like I said, it means that to me you're putting a heck of a lot of trust in the other moves that you made to say this is what should have been. Like, there's a method to the madness. Well, when that method looks more like madness, that's when the questions come about. Yeah. And to say, what was your thought process from the get-go here? Because, like, you made it clear in your interviews to say that, it was either, dude from Michigan, for a draft.
The guy we drafted last year that we traded to.
No. Like this year, like the defensive tackle.
What was his name? What was his name?
We're bad about names.
Bro, it's crazy.
Bad about names this week. What was it? Thank you, Mason Graham.
Mason Graham.
Thank you so much. Locker Room Charlotte giving us the assist over there. They were basically saying it was either Mason Graham or T-Mac. Like, they made it known that Jalen wasn't even on their immediate radar, at least from because there was more than likely T-Mac was not going to be off the board by that point, and they would have gone with T-Mac over Jalen, which they did.
They did, yeah.
So, like, to not have that plan in place for a linebacker, right? Like, you go and get the money for Morig because you knew safety was something that needed to be addressed. You lost your entire safety room. But, like, if you were going into these offseason going, okay, we don't really know if we're going to keep, Shaq. Even if we get Roseboom and Pat Jones, like, these are not – it's hard because we look at him like, are these guys going to be bargain bin? Like, even DJ wasn't like, Wanham was not fleshed out to the point where we really could trust what his ability was going to be.
The guys like Roseboom would have been guys that you would have liked when you had a true starter. Because guys like Roseboom, to me, are more like AJ Klein from back in the day.
Absolutely.
These are serviceable backups. That guys that if you have to roll with them for a game or two, you'll feel fine.
Absolutely.
But for 17 games, that's where it gets a little dicey. That's where it gets dicey.
Or you bring him in as like a veteran presence around young guys you're trying to bring in, but like to not have, especially because I'm looking at this defense, and like Rosewood talked about having the green dot, and I'm like, you're calling the plays, like you're going to be the captain on defense. You've been here a month, if I guess 3 months, if that, like
a few months now. So
like, I just don't, like that was Shaq's obviously biggest pull was his tenure with the team.
Right.
Whether he agreed with the Vera system or liked it, he was at least familiar with it to the point where he could run it. Now I'm like, because you're not making Derek Brown call the plays from the line of scrimmage, so from just like seeing that, like a field of vision and like an understanding, I just don't know if Roseboom has never been that guy. Does he possess the ability to be that guy in this system with younger guys, a rotating linebacker room? Like, that's just where I get a little concerned, right?
Yeah.
So I think that's where, like, I have really high hopes for this team, but like you talked about it, this positionless defense, like It's all well and good if you have a big man that can go out and go out to the corner, but if he can't shoot threes, then what does it matter what he's on the corner
Right,
for?
man. Like being positionless is cool when you got real ballers. You know what I'm saying? So I guess we have to see. I would say one more question that I have
All right.
is, who's been wide receiver one so far? Like I've seen some things, and the things that things that I've noticed, it feels like a certain name that people definitely gave a lot of he caught a lot of heat last season. But so far you've been at camp, you've been able to see it firsthand. Who's stood out as the guy in that receiver room?
Look at I think, to be honest, if he can continue with what I've seen and whether or not like all the fun he was having in the off season was just like, taking him the pressure off of himself and um Canales made a point to say this along with him and JT Sanders. Last season off season, they're spending the entire off season as rookies preparing for combine, preparing for pro days, preparing for like mini camp, rookie camp, not actually getting to learn the system. Having a year under your belt to not have to worry about that, and also coming into it with the knowledge of like there's no Deontay Johnson, Adam Thielen is still there, but like you have not immediate competition, but there can be an immediate 1-2 punch. I really do think XL has emerged in the last week or two of training camp. Out like he's not making these flashy catches, but he's not dropping the ball.
Consistency is what we needed from him, though. That was
And
the biggest thing last year.
and for the connection that he's had with Bryce, spending the time. I mean, he spent every day off of OTA's minicamp and the first week of training camp on the jugs machine. Like at the end, there was not leaving until he was going through them, and then there was no route god or anything like that he was working with, right? And very just like simple and just like running over you or through you kind of style of football to where when it comes down to it, when I think what really I imagine could be your like vision for this wide receiver room is in between the 20s, like you're leaning on Coker and XL. I really think. And then once you get into that red zone, you're looking at T-Mac. You're looking at Adam Thielen over the middle. These like we saw last year. You're looking at maybe, a JT. I think like JT Sanders, Coker, and XL are going to be like if he's going through his progression, I think he's going to look in the middle or look X's way first. I think Nalo has the ability to make those, he's going to run around you. So I think Nalo might have more dedicated plays to him or hot routes.
Mm-hmm.
But I really, truly think that XL has the potential and the ability and has made the progression to be wide receiver one.
I'm hopeful. I mean, you talk about his build, talk about the athleticism that he possesses. If there's consistency married with that, then I think we're in a great spot. I mean, like I said, I'm excited for that receiver room. I'm glad we got both him, XL, and T Mac on the roster now. Feels like we had that. Feels like the first time in a long time we've had two young, dynamic receivers since DJ Moore, and Kirko.
Absolutely.
So I mean, I'm hopeful to see that materialize in some big time plays, big time offensive season for Bryce Young, and hopefully some wins to go along with that.
Until then, though, keep pounding.